Have you ever wanted to work with a twin needle or a double needle? You can on this machine, really easy. There's just a couple tricks to kind of keep in mind. Number one, once we put this needle on, the machine does not know that it's there. So if you pick a really wide stitch, meaning you set it all the way to 5, you will probably break the needle because as it swings to the left, it will hit the foot, or swings to the right, same thing. So first thing to do is take a look at the needle size that you're going to put on. They do come in different widths, and they're noted by millimeters. So this one is a 2.0 millimeter double needle. So I want to take my maximum stitch width, which is 5, subtract 2. So I'm going to be somewhere below 3. I'm going to set it at 2.5 to just be nice and safe. Now so we'll just go ahead and put that needle in. So they're actually quite easy. You can do quite a bit of things with a double needle. You can sew like that hem that you see on knit fabrics at the hem. You can recreate that. So if you're actually doing a new hem or shortening something, you can do that. You can do it with some decorative stitches. Just play around with these. And you can actually even free motion quilt with a double needle. So the key is when I thread my machine, and I've taken the thread completely out right this second, because what I want to do is, if you look at where we come down to thread the machine the very first time, right in here, you see a little fin, and you can even hear it. Kind of hear I'm kind of moving it around with my finger. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that one thread that I put through the machine goes on the right side of that fin, and the other to go on the left side. So that's why I'm actually kind of rethreading it so I know which way I was going. And for right now, I'm going to just set my other spool, which is a variegated color, under or just down in front, and then put it up and around my little vertical spool pin, and then that way I don't have to, it's a really heavy spool, so I don't want to have it go spinning up there. It might pull too much. So I'm separating these little threads, one on one side of that, one on the other. Give it a little pull, make sure, because that is the tension, make sure that's actually getting in there nicely. And then you can just put the 2 threads in your hand and continue on down. Now when you get to the top of the needle, notice there are 2 guides. You've probably been using one of them primarily. So this is where we're going to use, put one thread in the left and one in the right. And the needle threader doesn't work because it's lined up for a center needle position. So you are going to need to manually thread your needles. It technically does not matter which thread goes in which needle. Just whichever one, if you put the thread on the right side, put that in the right needle. That's probably the most obvious thing to do, but make sure you're doing that. And if you cannot see that needle anymore, may I recommend one of those handheld needle threaders. You can get them at your Pfaff store. You want to look for the one that has like a little plunger in it. And if you talk to one of the people there, they'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, so before we do any sewing, I do like to just do a little testing and make sure that things are threaded correctly, and also that I'm not going to break it when I stitch. So I might even take a few stitches by hand and just make sure everything sounds good and the needle's not going too wide. I'm watching that it's swinging within my foot range, and off we go. All right, so it will, like I said, it'll just sew like a regular needle. Usually I find people kind of sewing a little slower as they get started. Look at that. But then as you get more confidence, you can definitely enjoy just doing some nice basic sewing. So let's just do like a little straight stitch. I've got some other, this is a fun little variegated thread giving us a little accent to it. And then 2, we could even try some of those stitches that are like the heavier version of this. So if I move this down to the stretch area, that will have the forward and back stitches that we can be also doing. So we'll go forward 2, back 1, and here comes a really heavy version, the triple straight stitch. But now there's 2 stitches because it's a twin needle. So if you want these stitches to be further apart, just get a needle that has a bigger number on it, and then the needles will have a little bit more distance. So you can see how much fun you can have when you play around with a twin needle.